The following program features weaponry being used on synthetic targets by a certified badass. Proper safety and good judgment should be employed if you plan to recreate any of the acts witnessed on this show. Also, consider supporting this video with a like rating and a comment. Although fun, this isn't cheap to do, and your support is appreciated.
Stop! Hammer time!
Tyreese's hammer. What more needs to be said? It's a big ass hammer wielded by a big ass man on a big ass show with a big ass ton of zombies. To be more precise, it's a very large 22 to 28 ounce framing hammer with a straight claw on the back. And we are going to be testing it out today on The Walking Dead.
Our first test will be the block of ice. Hey, I'm Keith Richards. I will be the dummy for this next test. Alright, that was some pretty massive damage. That's where the brain landed, as you can see. It's not going to be thinking about anything anytime soon. We got skull fragments flew all over the yard. I'm pretty sure there's some still in the yard somewhere. Pretty sure a lawnmower will pick those up and throw them later. But here's what it did to the skull. Just completely went right through it. And that was the blunt side. Smashed it all to bits. So look at that. Kind of broke the jaw too. Made the front face kind of fly off as well. But let's test the other side of the hammer here, since we got a piece of skull pretty much still intact. And let's test it out. Tyreese's hammer did a pretty damn fine job, if I do say so myself. Yeah.
Now comes the time in the show where I rate the weapon in several different categories, and the first of those is reliability. I have to give this a good rating in reliability. This is a very reliable weapon. You're not going to have to do much to it. There's really no maintenance. The only thing really you have to worry about is rust, but it would take a lot of rust to diminish this hammer in any way. The one I was using was very old and very rusty, and it popped that skull like it was a grape. So overall, 9.5. Next we have versatility, and I have to give this a 6.5. This is definitely not the most versatile of weapons. You cannot stab with it. You really can't cut with it. Maybe with the claw side, maybe you could do some kind of modification where you sharpen it. But generally speaking, this is a blunt force trauma weapon through and through. You maybe can throw it kind of like a tomahawk. It is shaped like a tomahawk. I've never thrown a hammer, so I'm not very sure. Might have to ask the Hammer brothers in Super Mario how well it would fare as a throwing weapon. But in general, this isn't the most versatile weapon, and for that it gets a 6.5. Next we have stealth, and the hammer I was using was very rusted, so it's not going to gleam in the sunlight, but a general hammer is going to gleam in the sunlight, and that's where it really hurts it stealth wise. It's not a very loud weapon, it's not a very big weapon, but unless it's intentionally rusted, then it's not going to be very stealthy looking. Sound wise, it's pretty good, and for that I have to give it a 7.5, but when you start rusting the weapon intentionally for stealth, you hurt the reliability. So overall, 7.5. And last but not least, we have killing power, and I have to give this an 8.5. This thing will mess a skull up. It will crack through it like it's nothing, but there's one problem, and that's the length of the hammer. This isn't a very long weapon, and that means you have to get very close. When you get close, you run the risk of making a mistake. If this was a longer hammer, like a war hammer, this will probably be a perfect 10 killing power weapon. But as it stands, it's just a little too short and a little too dangerous in that regard. Still though, I can't ignore the raw killing power and the raw damage this thing can do to a skull. So I have to give it an 8.5. Overall, I have to give this weapon an 8 out of 10. It has raw power, it is very, very reliable, but it's not the stealthiest of weapons, and it really gets hurt in the versatility department. The best use for this weapon would be as a sidearm, kind of like something you stick on your belt and use when your main weapon might break, get lost, get stuck in a zombie's head, what have you. That, or use it in a stealth role, maybe wrap it in some kind of black leather, except maybe for the head, or find a rusted one like this. But again, if you find a rusted hammer, it's going to diminish the reliability of the weapon. So overall, 8 out of 10, solid weapon. I just wish it were longer, and I wish it were a little more versatile. And thus another video comes to a close. If you missed the last video, you can click the screen where the video is playing to be taken to that video, and if you aren't subscribed, you can do so by clicking the zombie's eyes. If you aren't subscribed, you might want to do that, or I will use your scrotum as a speed bag. I'll do it.